Alright, so let's get started with the blues scale. I'll explain what it is and how to play it. But sometimes when we start to use the blues scale, it's hard to make it sound bluesy. So I've written a little piece for you as a little demonstration. So let's have a listen to it and then I'll come back and explain what it is. So there's a little solo, but just before we get into that, let me quickly show you the blues scale. It's really just A minor pentatonic with one extra note. Let me play it for you. All right, now what we're doing here is really we're just adding the 6th fret on the A string. So kind of filling in that gap of the pentatonic scale. So you can add it here. And you can also add it in one more place on the G string. And that goes like this. So in the pentatonic scale, we just have that 5 and 7 on the G, don't we? But you can add your pinky to the 8th fret on the G. And then that's the next note in the pentatonic scale. So really it's only one extra note. That note is called the flat 5. What that means is in the key of A, the 5th note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is going from the major scale, by the way, is flattened. So that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That E note is an E flat. And that's the blues note. So there's a E note here. So if you move back one, that's an E flat, and there's also an E note here on the 9th fret. A bit confusing this because it's out of the scale shape, isn't it? It's out of the regular pentatonic scale. But there's an E, there's E flat there, and that's the note you're adding within shape 1. So the whole shape again. Now, the reason for this piece that I wrote is it's a bit hard, I found, when I learnt the scale, to make it sound kind of bluesy. I knew you could add that kind of extra note, but what you did with it, I didn't have a clue. So here's the first lick of what I played, all right? So we have... So I'm starting here on the A note, and I'm going up that second part of the scale. So I'm going 7, 5, 7, 8, and then to 5 on the B there. When I get to that note, I'm going to go back down the blues scale, 8, 7, so far we've got this. And I'm finishing on that 7th fret there, right? And then I add this little phrase. So I'm hammering on from 5 to 7 on the G, back to 5, 7 on the A, 5 to 7 on the G. So here's that whole phrase. Then I do a second very similar thing for the next phrase, but it's kind of like an answer to that. So I'm still doing that hammer on. 5 to 7. 7 this time on the D. And I finish on that 5th fret on the G string. You could curl that as well. That's where you're bending the note slightly sharp. So here's those two phrases. Here's the next bit. So this is starting here on the 5th fret of the B. So So what I'm doing first of all, just to create a bit of variation, is instead of walking down the blues scale, I'm sliding back from that blues note, the 8th fret to the 7th fret, pulling off to the 5th fret. And then finally that 7th fret on the D, which is the A. And then I do this. So this is 5 on the B, 7, 5, to build it up a bit more. All right, so we have this in total. And I'll finish with that phrase, which is 5, 7, 7 on the D. All right. Let me go back to the beginning and play it all the way through for you so you can see how it goes so far. Now we're going to the turnaround, and it goes like this. Now we're into the lower part of the blues scale. So I'm starting on this E note on the 5th fret of the A, and then I hammer on 5 to 7 on the D, back to 5. And then I'm going down the blues scale. That's 7, 6, 5. Then a very common blues scale thing. 5 hammer on to 6, pull off to 5. And then 8 to 5, that's in the pentatonic scale. So there we go. All right, let me play it from the beginning so you can hear how it goes without the backing track. Obviously, you can go back to the beginning, have a listen to how it sounds. So here we go. 1, 2. There we go. Notice where I started that 2. 1 and 2 and 3. It starts on the end of 3, so before the beat comes in. So good luck with that. That's the blues scale. It's good to know what it is, and but using it so it sounds good is the tricky thing. So it's got to sound bluesy. That's the idea. So have some fun with that. Let me know how you go, and see you in the next one.